The first stage is called to me, and another, things happening to me. And you can also call it victim consciousness or separation consciousness. It's where we often hang out by habit. And it's marked by thoughts of when good things and bad things happen, they happen to us from the universe. And it really kind of perpetuates victim thinking, potentially, like, oh, look what the world keeps on handing to me. And it kind of assumes that source is out there and that we don't have any agency or control. And this state is ruled by a sense that there's a separation from our divine identity. And it's the place of fear. It's the place of regret, shame, and worry, because it's about separation. And so in this space, we might often, now we can inhabit this space. All of us inhabit this space at some time. But the idea is to not inhabit this space through being mindful that this space is functioning in our lives and to what degree. And one of the markers of that space is we might look for who's to blame or what's to blame. We might think thoughts like, oh, our parents did it, or our siblings are to blame, or people in my life are to blame. My situation is to blame. So we're looking for blame. And it's also easy in this day and age. You might notice every time you turn on the news or go on social media that it's very, very easy to put a lot of blame directly towards corporations, politicians, and billionaires. And I was just reading that there's the advent of, there's soon going to be trillionaires. That's the direction we're heading in. They say that Elon Musk is probably is on track to be the first trillionaire. I'm not sure exactly when it's going to happen, but so it's easy to think about blaming these people who have more and more power and influence. But blaming, a little blaming is okay, but blaming and only blaming doesn't help the situation, and it doesn't elevate anyone. We as spiritual people need to move beyond that. So our job is simply to transcend this habit of being in this place of victim, separation, blame, lack, to transcend the habit of being there by simply being aware that we are in that space. And one of the ways to do that is through mindfulness, not only through meditation, but in just simply noticing our thoughts. There's a psychologist named Gabor Mate. I'm sure you may have heard of him, but he talks about compassionate inquiry. Compassionate inquiry. And I think we can do compassionate inquiry with ourselves as a spiritual practice, saying, oh, what thought did I just think? That's really not the thought I want to be thinking. That's not the most productive thought. So I'm going to try to change my thoughts about that. Listen to me complain. Sometimes, have you ever heard yourself? You hear yourself complain and then you realize, oh, I don't like that. And so whether it's complaining or negativity or blaming, this compassionate inquiry is a great way to turn around this habit, examining our thoughts by being mindful. I was just thinking about, 5 years I talked about the story of a goldfish that is swimming. Well, I guess it could be any kind of fish, swimming in water that's clear, and it's slowly approaching water that's a little bit less clear and a little bit more muddy and a little bit more muddy. And in time, the fish over a long time is swimming in muddy water, but it took so long to get there that the fish doesn't realize it's in muddy water. It just becomes a part of the fish's environment. And so it is with this habitual negative mindset, lack mindset, complaining mindset, victim and blaming mindset. We get there because not only are we in our personal environments in there, but everyone else, and social media and TV and all conversations are in that space as well. So some ways to think about getting out of it besides compassionate inquiry might be guiding questions. And that guiding question might be, why did I just have that thought? Or what do I need to let go because I'm tired of having that thought? Or I'm noticing this reaction and it's truly not who I am anymore. So I want to think a different thought. I was also thinking that this to me stage, we're still talking about the to me separation stage, sees every problem as a curse. And what if we were to see every problem and every obstacle as a gift? It doesn't, we don't even have to accept that every problem and every obstacle is a gift, because sometimes it's hard to see that when those problems crop up. But if we invite ourselves to see them through that lens, I think miracles will happen. And one of those miracles is that the problems, the same types of problems, tend to come up over and over again until we embrace them somehow as a gift. And you may know stories like that in your life. So I invite you to try that on. So the second stage, to jot down below, we started with to me, and now we're going to go into the by me stage. And this is all from Michael Beckwith's 4 Stages of Consciousness. By me, B-Y-M-E. And this is also known as manifestor consciousness. And this is where we get to manifest things in our life. It's the basis of the law of attraction. It's the basis of the law of mind in action. That's a unity phrase. And this is also known as change your thinking, change your life. And this is a wonderful place to be. The guiding question here would be, what would I like to create with my thinking? And maybe another question is, how would I like to change my thinking to create what I want? How would I like to change my thinking to create what I want? And this realm has some fun in it, because you get to manifest parking spots. You get to manifest opportunities. You get to manifest wisdom. When you look for it, it seems to attract itself to you. When you're looking for wisdom, even very particular types of wisdom, it just happens. And so this is the law of attraction, and this is moving closer to our connection of source, our connection to source. And the downside is, you can stay in this manifesting stage, and you can just stay there manifesting things for yourself. I was once a part of a group that was actually chanting for their next BMWs and Mercedes and cash. And I was very young. I decided I need to lead this group, because I'm not sure if I want to be spending my spiritual time chanting for BMWs, my second BMW, my third BMW. I mean, that was really happening in this group. So I think that manifesting should be used not always selfishly for yourself. So I will summarize this stage by saying it's a good place to be. It's a powerful place to be, but there are more beneficial ways to think of our contribution on this planet by moving to the next stage. And this is where, if you want to jot down this next one, we're halfway there. We've gone from the to me stage to the by me stage, and now we are going to talk about the through me stage. This is otherwise known as channel consciousness. Channel consciousness. And we enter this realm through surrender. The other realm was a lot about control and will, and this is the opposite. It's surrender. And the guiding question here is, how can I serve? There can be many guiding questions, but I think that's one of my favorites. How can I serve? Because you are here to function as a divine channel, as an instrument. Like, think of a musical instrument. There's a piano that's sitting there, and you can try and try and try, but that piano as an instrument, when it opens itself up, it can be used in any way to create cacophonous sounds or to create miraculous sounds, but it just depends what you're channeling through the instrument. So what kind of divine channel do you want to be? And one of the ways of being in this space also is to let go and let God. Let go and let God. Michael Beckwith talks about this phase. The previous phase where we were manifesting was all about, I'm going to make that happen. I want that. And this phase is about, I'm going to make the highest good welcome. I'm going to make the highest good welcome. I'm open to infinite possibilities. You see how different that is? It's a different kind of a power. It's a different kind of a power because we may not always know, we may not be able to see the greatest good at this time. But if we open ourselves up to the unlimited potential of the answer and the resolution and not attach ourselves to a particular solution, miracles will happen. This is actually how I found unity. I wanted to serve. I wanted to be a minister. I didn't have it on my roadmap. I didn't know how it was going to happen, but I just kept on doing spiritual work in the world. And one day I got a phone call, and it was unity finding me in a way, saying there's an opportunity available for you, David, to do this if you so choose to go in this direction. And this is the universe working, the power of the universe working through you as a channel. What have you been through in your life where you felt like the universe was using you as a channel? And one of those ways for me was, I often talk about being the full-time caregiver for my mom, and I just felt like this was such a visceral, spiritual, immediate yes for me, that the grace and God and every force possible was saying, this is your role, David, should you choose to accept it. And I did. And so that was an example of being a part of channel consciousness. So this is a wonderful place to be. And it is still marked by a little bit of thinking of separation. And I'll explain why as we move to the next channel. So you might want to jot this final one down. The final one down is, so we've gone from moving from to me, to by me, to through me. And now we're going to talk about the final stage, which is as me, as me. And I was thinking that another name for this might be unity consciousness, or it might be divine consciousness, or it might be radiance consciousness, because in the knowledge of our unity with each other and with all things and with our own divinity, we are able to radiate out as a divine being. You see how it's so much greater and higher than any of the previous stages. We're radiating out. That T.J. Woodward often talks about this. He talks about we need to skip over, we need to go through the law of attraction and move towards the law of radiance. I invite you to watch his last talk. He talked about that. And every week we say there is only one power and one presence, active as the universe, active as my life, the infinite source of love, abundance, harmony, wholeness, expressing as me, not by me, through me, but as me. And so we affirm this. And there's a poet, Alfred Lord Tennyson, who described God as closer than breathing and nearer than hands and feet. And I know you've heard that probably, but it's so true. And it represents this as me consciousness, closer than breathing and nearer than hands and feet. And that's what God is, the God of our understanding. So the guiding question for this final stage is, what is seeking to emerge as me? What is seeking to emerge as my life? And another guiding question would be, what is the highest vision for my life in this moment? And you can ask yourself that question every day. And just the asking of the question, it just invites in the infinite. It just invites in the divine. So I love those questions. So there's nothing wrong with being in these previous stages, except for the first one, the victim stage. That is a stage that we don't want to be in. But these other stages all have benefits, and they are all a part of a spectrum. And I think it's a beautiful way to look at our spiritual growth. And as long as we're not in victim stage, we can dance between the other stages, by me, through me, as me, being a channel, being a manifester, or being in radiance, in the law of radiance. So speaking of law of radiance, I was writing this talk last night, and I was flipping over to a note page, and there was this quote that was sitting there. It was a quote from Susan Rickett, who you may remember her, and she's in Montana now. But she said after one service something that was so powerful to me that I wrote it down, and I just saw it last night, and I thought it kind of matched the energy of this ASME stage. She said, "Let's be persistent in expressing the best and greatest version of who we are." Let's be persistent in expressing the best and greatest version of who we are. Isn't that beautiful? And I think that's what spiritual people do. They don't want to just party. There's nothing wrong with partying, but it's more than just, life is more than just partying. Life is doing the spiritual work so you can have an impact on your own life, so you can be a beacon. You want to be the best possible person that you can be. You know that feeling? I know you know that feeling. And so that feeling is a part of the work that we're talking about here. And I close with, there's a book by two Unity ministers. One is Linda Martella Whitsitt, who used to be the vice president of Silent Unity, and the other is Deanne Morency, who used to be a assistant minister in San Francisco, but now she's the senior minister, I believe, in Marin. They wrote a beautiful book that I recommend highly on prayer called Discover. There it is, Denise. I knew you'd have it. Called Discover Your Divinity. And I think it's on page 67. And it was so funny. I was looking last night for Eric Butterworth's the Power Within You. I couldn't find it. I went through every single bookcase. Can't find it. Still don't know where it's at. But I picked up this book and I said, there's got to be some wisdom in here. And sure enough, I said, ooh, this chapter looks interesting. I opened it up to, I think it's page 67. You can tell me, Denise, but there's a quote here that I want to read to you from this book that reminds me of these stages. And I'll end the talk here. They say, in his classic New Thought text on prayer, Unity minister Eric Butterworth said this. Now, mind you, I was looking for Eric Butterworth's book. I could not find it. So instead, I found this other book that quoted him. And so here's the quote from Eric Butterworth. When people heard Jesus saying, "I am the light of the world," they thought he was referring to himself. They thought he was announcing that he was God, or God's special agent. But Jesus was simply affirming the truth, and he made it clear that each of us must also affirm this truth for ourselves. And the true affirmation here is, I am. I am divine. Yeah. And so this is unity consciousness. This is radiance consciousness. This is ASME consciousness. And I'm inviting us all to let the divine work as us and as our lives. And so it is. And Harold, I'm going to spotlight you for our song.
I can't be anybody but myself, and everybody else is already taken. I got to follow my own road, and God only knows where I'm going. Everybody's trying to fit in. I got to feel good in my own skin. Gonna use my imagination for inspiration. every chance I get. And I can't be anybody but myself. Everybody else is already taken. I got to follow my own road, and God only knows where I'm going. I'm trusting my instincts to keeping me in sync with my head and my heart and my soul. Oh, oh, I can't be anybody but myself, and everybody else is already taken. I got to follow my own road, and God only knows where I'm going. Oh, oh, I can't be anybody but myself, and everybody else is already taken. I got to follow my own road.